Liz, can you hear me?
I can, Adam.
Okay.
We're live and just holding tight till 3 o'clock.
Okay.
I can.
Okay, ready to go? Okay, call the meeting to order.
Okay. Commissioner Donny Carter.
Yep. Oh, sorry, you had me muted. Here.
Sorry. Commissioner Nina Forsythe.
Here.
Commissioner Kevin Grove.
Here.
And Commissioner Adam Ritchie.
Here.
And Mayor Robert Flanagan.
Here, Liz. All right, council meeting topics, starting with fee schedule amendment. Elaine?
Thank you. A topic came up this year in the process of our annual audit regarding our water rates. And specifically, it goes back to Resolution 2012-05, which established a special water rate for in-city customers who consume 1 million gallons of water per month. Because their rate schedule, the graduated rate applies to those customers at 500,000 gallons instead of 50,000 gallons. And it was unusual this year because of COVID-19. We had the university, which right now is the only customer that this rate schedule applies to, significantly dropped in consumption. And the way the original resolution was worded, it was not clear that this determination of consumption and rate be evaluated on an annual basis as we had been doing. And we wanted to be clear that we don't flip-flop rates month to month when a particular customer falls under 1 million gallons, if that is their typical average. Or on the flip side, if the customer has an unusual month and their consumption goes over 1 million gallons, and that is not normal. So the determination was made that this really should be part of our fee schedule that is approved by ordinance each year. So what we would be proposing is an amendment to our schedule of municipal fees to include a clear section that addresses this issue for large in-city consumers. And the wording would be as follows. Based on an evaluation of water consumption on an annual basis in February each year, which is when we do our EDU evaluation, in-city customers who typically consume an average of 1 million gallons per month over a 12-month period are billed for water consumption in the following way. And that lower threshold would be 0 to 500,000 gallons per billing, and then the graduated rate would begin at 500,001 gallons and over. So that would make it clear that we're not changing the fees applicable for water billing for a customer month to month, but we're looking at their average consumption over a year. So this would continue to be something that would be in the wording of the fee schedule each year going forward. So this will be a item for your consideration next week at your council meeting. It's not changing anything we've done in practice. It just clears the wording to make sure that what we have been doing is clearly in the ordinance.
Okay. Everybody okay?
Yeah, that's good.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Elaine.
Thank you very much.
LJ?
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. What we have to present here for you today is an updated ordinance. The goal is to update a policy we had on the books restricting the acceptance of rental housing registration when utility accounts were unpaid or in arrears. That situation has come up a number of times in the past when perhaps water meters have frozen and rental property owners had refused to pay for the replacement meters, and we refused to accept registration until that item was cleared. Now to bring this into the city code and make it more than just a policy, Elaine and Elizabeth and I had the discussion that perhaps this should be extended out into the issuance of building occupancy and grading permits as well, just to prevent the issuance of permits of that nature when there are delinquencies on those accounts. We felt that made sense, and it would protect and help our ability to clear those accounts and take payment.
So just to inform me, you're saying this is to not permit not to issue a building permit if there is a delinquency currently on it?
Yes, and so for example, there are 2 properties in town where we have issued demolition permits, and the old structures have been demolished and new structures are in the planning stages but have not yet been permitted. And both of those properties have significant delinquent utility accounts, whether they were due to a leak that occurred or perhaps just the accrual of surcharges and property owner doesn't want to pay it. So the way it would be worded is it would be in Article 3, permit issuance restrictions, Section 3-1, restrictions on issuance of permits. No building permit, occupancy permit, grading permit, or rental housing registration shall be issued as to any property with unpaid taxes, utility fees, or fines which have been issued for property-specific code violations.
Mhm. That makes sense. Yeah.
This ordinance was drafted by your city attorney, and we had some conversations about this being property specific versus citywide. So if you own XYZ properties that have delinquent accounts and then you buy property A and you want to build something there, another way to write it is that all of your accounts need to be current. That is a lot more far-reaching than this current ordinance. And I worry about the administrative enforcement of that in terms of individuals operating under their personal name or business names or partnerships, and then defining, when you do or do not issue a permit. So this is very clean in terms of it's just specific to an individual property. If you want us to look at making it more far-reaching, we could certainly consider that, but this seemed like a less significant step.
Anybody have any comment?
I think it's good.
Okay. All right. All right,
Thank you
LJ.
very much.
Thank you, LJ. Appreciate it. FCRC, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Good afternoon, everyone. So for this item, I will be asking for your permission for me to sign 2 memorandums of understanding with the Family Crisis Resource Center. You may recall these programs. This is essentially a renewal But these memorandums cover two different programs. One is called Safe Haven. And under that program, the police department has police officers work off duty at the FCRC Center in Cumberland, and they perform security services during supervised visitations of parents with their children. So one of the nice things about this program, it allows all of us to earn some extra money for off-duty security activities. It provides FCRC with the security services that they've asked us for, and it enhances the relationship between the police department and FCRC. This is a program that's been in place for a number of years, and it's worked really, really well. So typically we've had a written agreement, but that agreement has expired. The program has been continuing fine with the services and reimbursements, but we have generally had a written agreement on file, and we would like to have another one and your permission to continue the program. Version of it is it automatically renews every year, so we don't encounter a situation where it expires without anyone catching it. There is a provision in there that either party, either us or FCRC, could withdraw from the agreement with 30 days notice. And if FCRC can't get the funding, then the program wouldn't continue. And the only other thing I think we added in is FCRC would notify us every year of the new budget amount and if there was a change there or any problem. The second program is very, very similar, and the agreement's very similar. That program is called VOCA. It's essentially a domestic violence follow-up program. So very similarly, one of our police officers works off-duty overtime to do follow-up work with victims of domestic violence. The officer gets with a worker from FCRC, and they essentially offer services and follow-up to victims of domestic violence. Again, that program also has been in place for several years. It's worked really well. And again, this agreement would auto renew just like the Safe Haven would with the same terms. Certainly glad to answer any questions you have or elaborate further, but otherwise I'll be asking for your permission for me to sign these documents and for your permission to continue these programs.
Kevin, you good?
Yeah, I'm good with it. I don't think we have to do an ordinance or anything on this, do we?
No, I don't believe so.
It's an important service.
Sure.
Okay, Chief, you're good to go.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. I appreciate it.
Enterprise zone, Laura?
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes. Good, go ahead.
Sorry about that. So the Enterprise Zone program, it's that time of year again to hire businesses for the year for 2020. It's a state incentive where any businesses that locate in the Enterprise Zone can become eligible for two different sets of tax credits. And the first of those tax credits is a real property tax credit that's based upon any sort of capital improvements or property expansion that they've done within the year. This is one that's based on any increase in their tax assessment, and it's a 10-year tax credit that they can receive. The second one is an employee or job creation tax credit, and that's based on hiring new employees, and it is a 3-year tax credit. It also benefits those employees on their own personal taxes if they are a lower income employee. And this is something that we do yearly, and I'm going to present a list next week with new businesses for your approval. This has been a relatively slow year with COVID, with closures. We don't have a whole lot of new businesses, and those that have been open, we have a lot of proprietor run, sole proprietor businesses, and also businesses who have either laid off or not grown or added this year. So I'm still working on recruiting some more, and if anyone has any ideas of new businesses or any that have had any expansion or growth this year, I could use some suggestions. But unless there are any other questions, that's the whole rundown for that one.
Center Street then?
Okay. The Center Street demolition contract, we had a really good turnout for this. For the Center Street redevelopment project, we've got 8 properties that we acquired over the last 2 years that will need to be demolished in order to make way for a new development. We had a really good turnout, received 6 bids, and had contractors as far as the DC area, West Virginia. So the low bid, you can see the whole bid tab there, but the low bid was from the Cumberland area from Miller Trucking, $85,600. So that's a really favorable bid. I believe that the asbestos abatement company had told me it would cost them in the high 60,000s or about 70,000 just for the asbestos abatement. So that's a really good bid to not come in too much higher than that. This will be another resolution next week for your approval, and we hope that the demolition would be complete by the end of the calendar year. Any questions on that one?
Are we okay? Okay, Laura, go ahead.
And then this is also another one that's an annual resolution. And this is for our Department of Housing and Community Development State Revitalization Programs grants for the year. One is we'd like to reapply for another building and facade improvements grant. We had a good turnout for that this year and had a lot of people who weren't quite ready to do their improvements with the COVID impact this year and who expressed interest that they'd like to do something in the spring or next year. So Elizabeth and I had thought it would be good to reapply for another similar grant for next year. So we'd like to do that for $75,000 to contribute toward business district improvements at various businesses and properties. And then we're also hoping to do an application for $100,000 for 59 East Main improvements. And that would be, as you know, we've been working on with the new municipal center, and with our move, we need to find a good purpose, something that's good for the community to do with our current city hall. So staff have been working and mayor and council to find a new occupant for the building, and have recently been talking with FSU as a potential occupant. An issue though is that the current building isn't really up to code, certainly doesn't have ADA access, that sort of thing. So, so some significant improvements would need to be made to the building before it would really be marketable and be able to be leased. So the second $100,000 grant would be to complete a architectural and engineering study to see what all would be required to bring the building up to those access and safety codes and things, and to get some of that work started to improve the building. So that'll be for a total of $175,000 of grants from DHCD this year, and it'll be a resolution for your approval next week as well. Any questions?
And just to clarify on the $100,000 for the current city hall building, anticipating that would be assigned to either FSU or whoever other organization that we would be able to enter into a lease agreement with. At this point in time, I'm working on having an agreement for your consideration at the November council meeting with Frostburg State. But it wouldn't be the city managing that money. It would be the city passing that money on to the entity leasing this or purchasing this building.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, both of them this year, the big benefit would be that the business owners would be coming up with the match money and the occupant would. So on all of our DHCD applications this year, we wouldn't be required to be coming up with the match money. So it's a good policy.
Very good, very good. Okay, good to move forward?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Liz, off to you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So in the spring, hold on, I need to close my door real quick because I can hear myself on someone else's computer. Okay, my brain doesn't work that well to hear that echo. So in the spring, you approved using Spectrum Designs to do the furniture design selection for the 37 Broadway project. Prior to the state $500,000 grant award, we were looking at buying used furniture from one of those surplus sales the federal government has, and using what existing furniture that was salvageable at our buildings. Frostburg has a long history of using hand-me-downs and discount chairs from the box stores, and nothing that, I mean, some of our like military surplus desks from the 50s are still working, but you know, nothing of that's been bought new or an investment made in that. So I've been working with Heather Lancaster at Spectrum Designs for the past 6 months, and she is working with a company called Furniture Land, and they're through their program called Contract, which means that in line with our procurement policy, they have pricing that has been competitively bid, that they get government contracts similar to what we've done with Sourcewell pricing and things like that. Their total budget number, I met with Heather late yesterday afternoon, and there was a few items where we weren't, when we had originally made selections, like a chrome finish ended up costing more than a standard finish, and we weren't aware of that. So trying to pare down any extra expenses, or they had selected some like higher grade fabrics and downgrading that to more of the standard fabric. In this document here, you can see all of the new furniture that would be included in this purchase. It includes all of the desks. It includes all of the, for lack of a better word, partitions or cubicles, bookshelves, chairs, everything to equip the council chambers, the conference rooms, storage, and the police lounge. This also includes the specific dispatcher's works console, and a few specialty items like a mailbox and stuff that the police department wanted. That's just the view of the furniture layout in the downstairs of the building from a different angle. And then upstairs, the 3D view is more helpful, but then storage for many of the project files that the city has. We will reuse our map cabinets that we currently have at City Hall. So these are just a placeholder for those map cabinets. Apparently map cabinets are insanely expensive, and our antique ones still function. So we'll just be moving those. But then lunchroom furniture, all of the office furniture, conference room tables, and as well as, you know, the seating for the public when they come in into the lobby areas. So the total amount for this, I don't have finalized because of some of the cost pare downs that we did yesterday. But I expect it to be around $140,000. That does include delivery and about a week's worth of assembly and installation. So that value being incorporated into that total price, I think is very fair versus if we had gone out and bought these pieces individually over time. Also, just in terms of workplace conditions, all of the office desks in the finance and City Hall upstairs will be standing desks. So there's the health and wellness benefit that's been accommodated as well there. Everything more or less is a neutral palette. No bright blue chairs for the mayor and council to sit in anymore.
Darn.
But I think your new ones are pretty cool, so you will like them. But I think Heather has done a great job, and then I've had the opportunity to work with the Furniture Land Contract folks. All the furniture is made in North America as well.
Very good.
So I think some is in Canada, some is in the US, and some is in Mexico, but it is all North American made furniture. Desks, the kind of overall color palette in the building is very neutral. And I think so there's a lot of grays and just tans, and we've incorporated some blue in the police department and a little hints of green elsewhere, but everything is neutral and should last 30 years or more. I expect this to serve the city well for a long period of time. In terms of overall budget, last month you did approve some change orders, and the architect had not yet approved those change orders, and we've had 2 progress meetings since then, and we've been able to scale back those change orders significantly. The door to the prisoner access room everything will work as is, with just adding an electronic key card and a mag lock to it, or mag, I don't know what that thing's called, but a mag something.
Mag.
And some kind of magnetic locking thing.
Mag light.
So that's about $7,000 there that'll be saved. We're also looking, the key card access system and video camera system, we went over that in detail, and I expect that to change in our favor as well. So so we're with the additional $500,000 of state grant, we're still well within our CDA loan and grant monies. So I feel very comfortable recommending this. I know it seems like a lot of money, but at the same time, I think about what the employees of Frostburg have had since 1975, when the municipal building was first renovated. So I think at that time, that's when they got that military surplus furniture. So, but if there's any questions or concerns, I'd be happy to answer them. I have about an 80-page packet of each piece of furniture selection, and that I could send to you if you're interested, but I did not want to include that here just because of the length of it, adding to the overall agenda. But if any of you are interested in seeing that, I'd be happy to email it along.
I don't remember if we ever discussed carpeting.
Yeah, so most of the rooms, most of the city hall office areas and hallway are carpeted, and with the carpet tiles, like similar to what was used at City Place.
That's right, I remember now, yeah.
There is some green in that carpet, so that's kind of where the color comes from within the building, is that carpeted selection. And then there's various ceramic tile or porcelain tile, and then in the very high traffic areas, and then in the lower traffic areas, but where a more resilient or resistant floor is needed, there's a few different types of luxury vinyl tile. So that's all included in the architectural contract.
Thanks.
Sure.
I do think that getting quality stuff that'll last a while is more important than getting cheap stuff that'll wear out in 8 years.
Yes, it has been a common theme to have office chairs here at City Hall that are bought at a big box store and last for about 3 years until you can't stand sitting in that chair any longer. And then, and I mean, really the quality chairs that we're getting are very comfortable and adjust to people of different weights and heights. And they're really not that much more on an individual basis, but when you need 17 of them at a time, you know, the costs add up, so.
Like we're all good?
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, I know a few of the commissioners didn't think we would be here right now, based on the conversation a couple months ago about the sale of the Petit. With your consent, we reissued a request for proposals for the Petit building, and just took away the bonding timelines, extent of the proposal, and just made it a very simple offer price proposal with the option of providing a narrative on what they wanted to do. And but there's also no grant money attached with it. And the grant money is kind of why we needed to have those safeguards in place, because there were periods of performance as well as stipulations in terms of Maryland licensed contractors, as well as matching funds. So without the grant money associated with the building, it gave us some flexibility in terms of disposing of the OPT building. So we solicited proposals from the end of July through mid-September, and we did receive 2 proposals. What I had done with your consent was reached out to 4 different individuals familiar with business planning or economic development within the region, from county, FSU, SBDC, and Maryland Department of Commerce. And I struck all of the names or identifying information from the 2 proposals and asked them to make a recommendation. All 4 of them unanimously and separately recommended what we referred to as Proposal B, which was submitted by Larry and Megan Guthrie. I have sent this to you in advance. Both proposals were very similar in nature in terms of what they look to do, timelines, and estimated costs of what they would put into the building. But Larry and Megan Guthrie did offer the city $40,000 to purchase the building, and they expect to be completed with their plans by the end of the summer of 2023. So it would be my recommendation that we sell this building to them. So if there's questions or concerns about that, I'd be happy to answer them. But Larry has indicated that they would like to move forward as quickly as possible. They're anxious to start on the project before winter. And because of COVID, I think there's some very attractive loan options out there available through Tri-County Council that they're interested in and taking advantage of. But that's kind of a first come, first serve opportunity there. In speaking with your attorney, Michael, and Larry Guthrie, he was comfortable with just moving forward without a sales contract and just moving to closing. It's very cut and dry with the purchase price, and we're selling the building as is, so the city wouldn't be making any warranties or representations that the Guthries would be able to hold us accountable for. So if there's questions, I'll answer them, but otherwise I'd like for you to consider this to be a resolution at your council meeting next week to authorize the sale of the property to Megan and Larry Guthrie.
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I'd like to put out there that I would probably have to abstain from this because some people don't know it, but Larry's grandmother is my mother-in-law's sister.
Okay.
So just so there's not a perception of a conflict of interest, I would abstain from voting on that.
I most likely would abstain also, since I was the other bid.
Okay.
Hopefully the other, and
Adam and Nina, we okay?
Adam is not going to be
I
here.
won't be at the meeting.
I have no connections to either party.
Okay.
Yeah, I won't be at council meeting next week, so I don't know.
Ooh. Does that cause a problem?
There's only two of you.
I'm trying.
We might, should we do a special session since they want to move on forward on this as soon as possible?
Yes. Tentatively, we have closing scheduled for October 20th. I asked Michael Cohen and the Guthries to hold that date. Would Monday the 19th for a special session for the mayor, Commissioner Forsythe, and Commissioner Ritchie work?
I believe so.
Yes. Liz, remember we have that other meeting too that day, so just.
Okay. You're right. Mayor, would
Good.
3 p.m. on the 21st work for you?
21st?
19th, I mean.
Okay. I thought it worked. Yeah, I'll make it work.
It's fine with me.
Okay. Nia?
I believe so.
Okay. If anyone has a problem, let's get back to Liz as soon as possible, okay?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, thank you, everyone, for talking about recusing yourself from those votes, because that saved us a problem for next week. So, thank you.
All right. Very good.
Okay. I can't believe there wasn't any cheering that you got rid of the office building. Okay.
Oh, I think some people will be happy. It's been it's been an item of conversation. I'm sure we've all experienced in our circles and been making our rounds. So it's hopefully Frostburg moving forward in the right way.
Thank you. Okay, so the loader.
The loader.
Every year for I'm not sure how many years now, probably 5 or so, we've rented a loader at the street department to load salt out of the salt dome into the plow trucks. We had a loader that was dying, so we got rid of that and then went to this leasing option for just the winter months. Depending on if we lease it for 3 or 4 months, we're looking at somewhere between $14,000 and $18,000 a year on a rental loader. Now, of course, these are generally brand new loaders that are really nice. And you can see in this quote from Rish, this is what a 2016 used one would cost us. But the main thing that we use a loader for is just to haul salt. Occasionally outside of the winter months, it would be nice to have a loader, specifically bulk pickup. But just other times, I was talking to Shane Elliott, our street department supervisor, and at times like when there's been big ice storms and a lot of tree branches are down in the road, things like that, that they'd used the loader in the past to clear streets. But we wouldn't have that option right now. We do have a backhoe that can always be used to load out salt in an emergency, but the bucket's smaller, and the point of running a loader is to keep our backhoe out of the salt and preserve the life of our backhoe. I tried really hard to buy a loader at an auction today, but the prices all went above 25,000, and anything above 25,000, I need your permission to purchase. But there's early 2000s or late 90s loaders that are out there that are in good shape, that really would suit our needs and I think would pay for themselves in less than 2 years. So I guess what I'd ask for you to consider is in a resolution next week, authorize the city to lease a loader. We got 2 very comparable quotes, so I need to talk with our street department supervisor to see what the total final number is going to be. Best Line said they would do delivery for free as long as we leased it for 3 months. And I think Rich said we had to lease it for 4 months commitment. So I need to, that's why I've included them both, because I haven't had the time yet to evaluate which one is actually the better deal for the city. But we have about a month probably before we enter into this lease agreement from now. And I'd like to spend that time to see if we can find a used loader for less than $30,000. And then it really would pay for itself. Obviously, I'd like to get something around 25 because then it gets pretty close to that $20,000 number. Chris did have some savings in the paving budget that he's looking to buy a little bit, some small pieces of equipment with, but then especially if we had savings in our salt budget, it would be easily covered within the street department budget. But I really feel like this would be an investment that would serve the city well and make budgeting a little easier going forward beyond this year. So I guess what I think I'm asking for is a resolution to authorize the city to either lease one of these loaders or buy a loader with an amount not to exceed, I don't know, $28,000 or $30,000. But I know I discussed this idea with Commissioner Ritchie, and I don't know if I think he supports it, but I don't know if he wants to chime in with any additional information.
Adam?
No, I mean, I'm for it. And like Liz said, I think that, it will pay for itself in 2 years. So, it'll save the city a lot of money down the road. I think if we can, I mean, that's a lot of money to put out to rent one every year, especially if we could pick something up for under 30,000.
I remember in past years, I'm sure Kevin remembers this too, that we had the amount that we could go ahead and put a highway blade on the front of the loader that we had. And when you had a heavy snow or whatnot, that it was really handy to get alleys opened up quickly.
Absolutely.
Obviously, it's 4-wheel drive. It articulates in the middle so it can go places your plow trucks can't go.
Right.
Mhm.
So that was very handy to have. And obviously, when we were leasing them, we would have to pay, I'm sure, extra money to get a highway blade for it or a V blade or something like that. So we could have all that, that capability that we currently don't have.
Yep.
Okay, so are you okay with a resolution that is kind of an either or option?
You want to say,
Yeah.
go to 30,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Liz, there you go.
Okay. I brought this one in today, hoping we'd have a real big version of this. I stole this from my son last night, but no luck.
I'm sending Elaine an email. I want my toy back, Mom.
It's a hand-me-down and well used, just like anything we will be buying. So, okay. Thank you. The rifle range agreement has been some back and forth. There's one issue that I want to talk to you first about that the rifle range has told me that is a deal breaker. Not the rifle range, I'm sorry, the sportsmen's clubs have told me that is a deal breaker for them. If you all are in agreement with changing that, then we can talk about a couple other concerns that they have. Michael Cohen, the city attorney, in every agreement that the city's party to, generally has this provision, waiver of a jury trial. His attorney recommendation is that if there was some legal proceedings that came about between the city and the rifle range, and they requested a jury trial, jurors are typically more critical of a city government or of any government, and will tend to not rule in the favor of a government. The sportsmen's clubs have said, well, a juror could, a judge could be have a preconceived notion about the use of firearms, and so in principle, the sportsmen's clubs just aren't interested in entering into an agreement if we require this waiver of a jury trial. However, the sportsmen's clubs do provide a very valuable resource to the city in the fact that they maintain the range for us and that they do the rifle range days once a month for most of the year, except for the coldest of the winter months. That's open to the public. So members of the public are able to go up. The sportsmen's clubs have certified range officers on site, and the public is able to take advantage of being able to use our nice rifle range, or we have a handgun range as well there. So I also reached out to LGIT, who is our liability insurer, and I said, if something were to happen, and if we went to court, and if there were a jury trial, and if it was an adverse decision against the city, would the city's allowance of having a jury trial in the agreement affect our premiums? And the answer was no. Whatever's in the agreement is not going to affect your premiums with your liability insurance. But if we were ever to get sued, LGIT would actually provide the attorneys for us. It would not be your city attorney under in that regard. So practically speaking, it's a calculated risk. We've never been in legal proceedings with the sportsmen's club, and I believe there's been some form or fashion of an agreement for 40 years. I know the current agreement was formed in the early 2000s. This is your decision to make. If we are insistent upon including that waiver of a jury trial provision, the clubs are not going to sign the agreement, and the city is going to be responsible for maintaining the range. And because of project open space money that's been obtained for the range, we'd at least have to provide open public days for the next 2 to 3 years, which would mean the city needs to pay to have multiple range safety officers on duty on weekends throughout the year. Not a huge expense, but it's an expense that we haven't planned for.
Is there objection to a jury trial or a non-jury trial new, or is that provision in the contract new?
That provision in the contract is new.
Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is, if there is something that's considered a violation, somebody shooting over the highway or whatever, and the trial doesn't go our way, could we terminate the contract I mean, would that be considered cause or not?
In the event of a violation of its terms, yeah, so if, in theory, that the only way that, yeah. In theory, the only way that would happen is if they weren't practicing proper safety measures, and that would obviously be a violation of the contract.
What other things are they disagreeing with? Is there any other?
Yeah, most of the things are just they're not disagreeing, they're just it's more administrative matters. But I did talk to Danny Williams with Piney at length about the jury trial provision, but then they also questioned this new agreement requires that a range safety officer must be on duty anytime the range is in use. In the previous agreement, club members could go up on their own with just, if I'm a member of the club and I want to go shoot, I can just go up and shoot because I have my key that the club gave me to get to the range. What this agreement has changed is that the key must be checked out at the police department, and the key must be checked out by a range safety officer, and there always has to be a range safety officer on duty. They're questioning why, and I don't feel that that's a negotiable item. This agreement, as it stands, was approved by Maryland State Police, State's Attorney, because of what happened, and they were very involved in making sure that that wouldn't happen again. And I believe this RSO, the range safety officer provision, is our best enforcement mechanism to make sure that doesn't go off again. Because to be a member of a sportsman's club, you pay your dues and you become a member. They don't have a safety test or an intelligence test or anything before you could, in theory, under the old agreement, get a key to go up there and use the range, which is, can lead to problems happening. Generally you would think sportsmen would practice firearm safety, but there's always the bad actor. So unless you tell me otherwise, I would like to tell them that the range safety officer is not negotiable.
I would agree.
So the range safety officer, Liz, is what does that mean? One has to be on duty all the time.
Every time the range is in use, yeah. Now, I think it's a half day or 2/3 of a day class to become a range safety officer. John Kirby was one, Brian Vogt is one. It's not some
It's not
impossible standard to reach. It's they very easily could have the sportsman's clubs could put on their own range safety officer. And if you really liked coming to the Frostburg range and you like to come on Tuesday nights once a week, well, now you just need to go take the range safety officer class and you can continue to do that.
Yeah, and I believe also, Liz, that's a class that they give over in Fort Ashby, and it's under $100. So it's not a big expense to become a range officer.
Yeah, and I think Brian occasionally schedules those classes at City Place to be held as well.
I think the biggest thing is just so that we don't have irresponsible behavior, because that could really end up being really dangerous, and it would be really bad publicity too for the sportsman's club and the rifle range if something really bad happened. So this is a way of ensuring safety. It just seems like that would be in their best interests as well.
I
I'm
agree.
not sure that we answered that question though. It says, are the clubs responsible for providing the RSO even when the user of the range is not associated with either of the clubs?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's a no. I mean, if the police department or the hunter safety class or the city is using it, no, the clubs aren't responsible for that. But in my conversation with Danny Williams, that's kind of outside of this red line vision,
Right.
that was the overarching question or concern that they had. I don't think that's a deal breaker. I think it's just a shift in how they go about using the range.
So give me a for instance for that, like the jury trial thing. I mean, what would be a scenario? Do you have one in mind where, they would be suing us? I mean.
It's pretty, or we could sue them. So let's just say they're responsible, for having an RSO up there. The RSO leaves and goes and has lunch. And in the meantime, he leaves the gate open, and this wouldn't happen because the clubs already are they always lock the gate behind them so they don't have more people showing up, but just a hypothetical. And some other people not authorized to be there get up there, and somebody gets shot in the foot, and they try to sue the city, and the city says, no, this is the sportsman club. It's their responsibility. So then the sportsman's club is going to say, well, we don't feel like it's our responsibility. We want a jury to decide this. Whereas,
right.
And the jury can be swayed, whereas, a judge is there to be an impartial decision.
So are we waiving our right to a jury trial too? I mean.
We are. So it's.
But I guess, isn't that one of our rights, is a right to a trial by a jury of our peers?
Well, that's what the sportsmen's clubs say too.
Yeah, I mean, I stepped out for 1 second, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's just, in Michael Cohen's opinion, a jury is generally going to render a more unfavorable decision towards a municipal entity than a judge would. But it's not always the case. It's a risk. I think, pragmatically speaking, it is in the city's best interest in terms of is to continue with the relationship with the sportsman's club and therefore strike that part from this agreement.
Yeah, and I believe, Liz, that by leaving in that we have to have an RSO there, that greatly diminishes any chance of us having a liability.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Yeah, it does seem that the relationship with the sportsman's club outweighs the risk of having this jury by trial, which, it's not a guaranteed thing anyways that it would go against us. So yeah, it just seems like this relationship, this contract is a more sure thing than having a trial go against us, if there even is a trial.
Okay. So I don't think I'll be able to get all of the issues worked out between now and next week with the sportsman's club, but I will advise them that the mayor and council were agreeable to removing the waiver of jury trial clause. And then we'll come back to the table, so to speak, and try and address any other outstanding issues in the agreement. And hopefully
So
have that.
let me ask you this real quick, Liz. Now,
Sure.
like, say they were gonna sue us, you know, is there any way that we can put a cap on how much, you know, that they could
I doubt it.
sue us for? I mean,
No.
Mm-mm.
If, from what I understand with Michael, is the judge has certain confines which he could, award the financial, he could award money, but a jury has unlimited discretion.
right.
But that's what you have liability insurance for,
Right.
and those piranha attorneys. I've never had to work with them yet, but
And we don't want to. In essence, we all okay?
Yeah, fine.
Okay. All right. Okay, Liz.
okay. I need to send an email real quick to the folks that are supposed to hop on here in a minute. So if you can just bear with me
Sure.
as I let them know to go ahead and join the meeting. Oh, they're trying to get in on their own. Okay. So I'm going to let them in right now. They must be watching us, so. Okay. Back to the agenda. Just a few other things for your council meeting. Each year since the bicentennial was celebrated in 2012, the mayor and council have used some funds that have been escrowed from the bicentennial to support the Spirit of Frostburg Award, which goes to an individual or nonprofit that has made Frostburg the special place that it is. And so that award will be presented at the meeting next week, and the recipient is all set to be there and receive it. Also, a resident of Allegheny County, in support of the blind community, asked the mayor to issue a proclamation for White Cane Awareness Day, and the mayor's agreed to do that. And Commissioner Forsythe, we will have more information regarding Halloween and more details hopefully ironed out by next Thursday, that your Halloween announcements can be made. The one Facebook post did go out about the Halloween costume walk, which will be on Halloween Day between 12 and 2 on Water Street between City Place and the fire department. The street will be closed, so we can, and there'll be a few candy stations and a few other things, but just an opportunity to be able to check out everyone in their costume in a socially distant manner. And then the trick-or-treating. I know Brian, has some good recommendations on how to do socially distant Halloween. So that'll be forthcoming.
I was checking out the CDC's guidelines, which they leave a lot to, the community, depending on how wide the spread of COVID is. But there are some good suggestions on there too about how you can do it safely, though they call it a high risk activity.
Yeah, there's guidelines weren't as cut and dry as I expected them to be.
Mhm.
So there's been a lot of talk about wearing masks that can be incorporated into your costume, and figuring out just either giving out candy with after you've sanitized or washed your hands. It's of course pre-packaged, and just minimizing contact with the trick-or-treaters. And then of course, if anyone doesn't feel comfortable participating, just to leave their porch light off. So
Yeah.
okay. So is there any questions or concerns about the upcoming topics for council meeting?
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So last month at your council meeting, I had been in discussion with Principal Labs. They were interested in setting up a COVID-19 testing location. The only location in city-owned property that we were able to identify would have been the carpeted meeting room at City Place. Unfortunately, the city just doesn't have a lot of areas of heated and air-conditioned space that would be suitable. And at that meeting, some residents brought up concerns about using City Place as a COVID site. And so you elected to table the conversation at your meeting. And under your direction, I provided Todd Finan with Principal Labs a list of, I don't know, 8 or so vacant properties within the city that they might be able to consider. And I did speak with Todd earlier this week, and they had not yet secured a location. And talking to the mayor, he suggested it might be best for Principal Labs to just come on and have a conversation with the mayor and council collectively to see if some sort of solution can be arrived at. And so a few folks from Principal Labs were able to join you today via Zoom. I know we have one person on. So if you give me just a minute or two to send a note to everyone else and see if they can hop on, I'll just go ahead and do that if you don't mind waiting for a couple minutes. Okay.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, how are you today?
Very well. Happy Thursday to everybody. Chris Rawl here for Principal Labs.
Hi, Chris.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, Nina.
Hello, Todd Finan here. How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Good, Todd.
Good. Is everyone joined?
I think we're all here.
Yeah.
Gina as well?
Mhm. Let's see.
So we're all, that's confirmed, we're all here?
I don't see Gina.
She texted me just now. She said she's joining.
This is a big group.
It says, Gina just sent me a text. It says, please wait. The meeting host will let you in soon. She showed me a screenshot of her computer. Well, I guess we can wait a little longer, and if you want us to start, we can. I don't know. Whatever you want. She's a valuable asset here, and I think it'd be good if she could join, but oh, there you are. All right, I think we're all here.
Hello.
Hey, Gina. Hit *6.
Hello.
Hello. Uh-oh. She can't hear us.
I think does she have to hit *6?
Hello.
Yeah, Gina, we can hear you.
Don't curse.
Hold on, hit *6 to mute.
Hey.
There, we see Gina
Hello.
and we can hear you.
Hi.
Can you hear
I
us?
can't hear you guys.
Huh.
Sometimes there's like a sync problem depending on what you're using.
I can hear you now. Yay!
Oh, okay.
Awesome.
All right.
It's a successful day if you could log on to Zoom. That's the way I look at it. How are you guys?
Good. How are
doing?
you?
Nice. Nice to meet you.
You too.
So yeah, go ahead, Liz.
Well, Todd, if you just want to kind of provide an introduction of who Principal Labs is and what you're looking to do here in Frostburg, and then the mayor and council are all listening and can ask you questions or share any concerns that they have with you.
Yeah, so we're a diagnostic laboratory based out of Bethlehem, PA. I'm the rep up here in the western part of the state. And I mean, with one of the things that has happened over the past, since the beginning of the year, is this COVID crisis. And we got involved with that testing. The first thing that I was involved with as far as the testing goes was setting up a site at Beckman's Pharmacy. It was a huge success. Beckman's was always going to be a temporary site from when we started there, and we were there from about July till about the end of August. And we offered both types of tests. We offered the nasal swab and the blood draw antibody. Insurance covered it all. Beckman's Pharmacy decided to charge a fee for using their site to patients, which was just their fee that they dealt with, nothing to do with insurance companies. I think it was $20 for the one and $25 for the other. But it was good. It was a good turnout, and it was a good service that we provided the company. Provided the community. Ever since they had to basically use our location for another purpose that they already intended to use for, I've been looking for another site in the area. And my first thought was, what better spot than Frostburg? I'm aware of the contract that the university has with Aon, but I wanted to be able to offer an alternative to the students, as well as one that's also available to the public. And I've been, when I got involved, when I first started seeking that out, I got in touch with a couple people, Ty DiMartino and Tom Dodd, and they were looking for places. And I forget what exactly it was that got me involved with who it was that got me involved with Elizabeth and City Place, but somebody did to their connections. And through the conversations back and forth, it became determined that that was not going to be a viable spot for the reasons that was laid out in the council meeting. I viewed that council meeting remotely because Elizabeth had sent me a video of it, and I acknowledged those concerns. But ever since then, we still have been looking for a spot in Frostburg where essentially I could replicate what I had in Beckman's, where it was a spot that I did not require a lease, that the people hosting the site would see the benefit in generating a small revenue for whatever that may be. So then when I heard that City Place might be interested, I thought, oh, that's great. The city might be able to generate some money for projects or stow it away for whatever rainy day fund they have. But as we sit here now, we realize that that's no longer a possibility. And right now, with the help of Ty and Tom, I am still looking for a location in Frostburg to offer the students and still maintain a presence in Allegheny County as an alternative testing site to the Med Expresses and the hospital and the other clinics where, the wait times can exceed an hour. So basically, that's where I'm at with things. And Elizabeth was talking to me and kind of expressed that there was still some interest that existed with the mayor and council on possibly having a site in the city. So I was happy to come on today and kind of explain what my original intentions were. And when the City Place, the first offer, or the first discussion started, I kind of thought that, I think it was to use it 3 days a week at City Place. I kind of personally thought for the city the size of Frostburg and a space like City Place, I thought that was a little much. So essentially I dialed it back a little bit, and I thought I need to find a space in Frostburg that will let me do testing once or twice a week, a small spot, not nearly as big as City Place. And yeah, that was essentially how I kind of refocused my energy towards something like that. So that's where I'm at with things. Still looking for a spot, still wanting to offer the city of Frostburg and Allegheny County an alternative to testing. And yeah, that's where I'm at. So I brought Gina and the attorney along to be able to field any questions the council may have. And I appreciate you for allowing me to come up here and kind of explain what I was trying to do.
Well, this is Nina Forsythe, one of the city council members. I am really interested in having a testing site in Frostburg. My understanding is that Aon, they provide testing for the university and for the nursing homes, and they have a thing with PharmaCare in Cumberland, which costs $100 a test, which seems a little steep to me. So my question is, I'm glad that you're still looking for a place. You mentioned that you have a standing order with area doctors, but I'm not really sure what that means. Does that mean that people can just if they have a doctor in the area, they can just walk in, or if they still need to get an order from their doctor?
Gina, do you want to answer that, or?
Sure, that's fine. No, so when they have a standing order, it means that, and the person is Dr. Cannon out of Cumberland. She's the same person who gave the standing order for Beckman's as well. No, what it means is that she's saying, I think the testing is important enough that you can use my MPI, and I've spoken to her in depth about this, because she thinks getting testing is an important thing. And as long as, you know, their qualifications meet what's medically necessary, then yes, then she believes that and we could talk to her, we can bring her on too as well. That's what a standing order would be. So they would not need to go to their own provider and get a standing order, get an order. She would be doing that. I think from your guys' perspective is the issue lies with, what do you guys do in regards to results? So is that something that you would want the lab to give to the patients, or is that something that Frostburg, along with a business associates agreement, would want to handle under their belt? I think that's what I would be wondering, how you guys want to handle that. We have some other places doing that, and everybody kind of does something a little bit different. And that, you know, we have Chris on here today, so he's also on if we have, you know, maybe there's a better way to do things than others. And so we can talk about that openly.
Seems to me that the results should go to the county health department as part of their aggregation of all the testing results, and so that contact tracing can be initiated.
And we do that automatically. So just so that, you know, from the laboratory side of things. So whatever states we're working with, that's already in function. But I mean, you have to get results to the patient. So you have to decide how you want, I mean, the state's different. They're going to get the information whether the patient gets it or not. And then the patient, there's different ways that we can do it. But you know, part of what I think some of the other folks are doing is taking on that responsibility to provide the patients with their results. And that's part of their part in the grand scheme of things, basically. So, yeah, so there's a couple different ways you can do it. Hey, Chris, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Do they have any issues with giving results out because they're the city, or because I know a lot of the folks that are giving out the results are pharmacy related, so that changes the relationship with the patient. Do you know what I mean? So is there any issues with that?
Yeah, I think the key is in the consent that you get on the front end from the patient. I think that the consent can just provide that who's going to get the results and how the results are going to flow. And I think if the patient comes in to get the test and agrees on that front end, here's how the test results are going to flow. It's going to go from me to the city. I'm sorry, it's going to go from the lab to the city to me.
Okay.
Once you have the consent laid out, it's fine to follow that sort of pathway.
I'm not sure that is something we're interested in doing. I know I mean, we're not staff for that, or you know.
Yeah, I think your main concern is having a place where people can get tested easily, making sure they can get their results so that they know if they've been exposed, they can quarantine and not further expose themselves. And then the contact tracing to make sure that other people can reach out, and the automatic part of the lab's reporting will cover the contact tracing. But it makes sense to me that you would not want to be inserting yourself in the test result. Yeah, loop. Yeah.
Okay. Well, and that's, you know, that goes back to, I know that they talked about a fee, like they wanted to charge a fee. So, I mean, if they're not actively involved in what the patient is doing, then I don't know if that's something that they want to do. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not their attorney, so I can't tell them what to do, but, you know, then that would be, it would be the lab handling the whole entire process. So.
Yeah. I mean, the lab should not charge a fee that is paid to the city
right
for each person's test. I mean, the lab should be collecting insurance information and billing insurance for
And
the
that's it.
test result. But, you know, in theory, the owner of the site, if the owner of the site is doing something and is charging some fee for that outside of the lab's involvement, you know, the lab's not going to have anything to do with that.
Right, okay.
My understanding is that when you were at Beckman's, even people who didn't have insurance didn't have to pay for the test, but they, you know, they still had to pay whatever Beckman charged.
Yep, that's correct. So we, the federal government has put a program in place for the uninsured. So all they have to do is bring their social security number, their address, and their information, and they would be covered from the insurance stuff.
So that's a federal program.
That is correct. Mhm.
Okay. So back to the doctor's orders. So it's still, it's not exactly just a walk-in, right? You still have to get an order from this particular doctor. Like you would if for example, if I were going to visit my 100-year-old mother and I wanted to make sure I didn't have COVID, I could call this doctor and say, I would like to have a test to make sure that I'm COVID-free before I visit my mother.
You wouldn't have to call. So what we would do is you would have to call us to schedule the appointment. So let's say we had the site set up. We would have somebody or a place that you would call and say, I'd like to make an appointment for a COVID test, whatever your reasons are. We say, okay, then we start asking you a series of questions, basically. That's what would be the underlying factors.
And we were,
yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but when we were at Beckman's, when people wanted tested, they didn't call their doctors. They called the pharmacy that was conducting the test, talked to a staff member, said, I want to come in on this day for the test. They wrote their name down. It wasn't by appointment, it was walk-in, but they knew that they were coming that day to get tested, and that the doctor's orders covered all testing from the Beckman site. They did not have to go to or make any additional phone calls to any doctors to ensure that they could get the test.
Gina, the doctor's order gives you a protocol to follow to say, if a patient meets these criteria, then I'm giving you this order to authorize you to do the test on them. And that's how you fit them in with a standing order, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
So it seems that at this point, you're still pursuing getting a place in Frostburg that you wouldn't have to sign a lease for. What kind of time frame are you looking at? I'm thinking about as the weather gets colder, people are more indoors. We might really start needing places that test. So do you have like a deadline by which you would really want to have a site?
My thought was just set something up for the flu season. Be here ready for the flu season. No, there's no date in my head that I have set, but I mean, there's a better in my eyes.
Yeah. And how many of these places have you contacted?
So there was the yoga studio above. There was a yoga studio on Main Street above them. They were interested, but then they got spooked about how that would affect them and their business with the testing up above. There is another commercial spot on Main Street that's vacant. I don't know the address off the top of my head, but then I also was, my first initial thought was, well, okay, I had success at a pharmacy. I want to go to Frostburg. I'm going to check out, I'm going to research what pharmacies they have. And basically all the pharmacies up there are all major chains except for pharmacare, and we all know that he's already involved with Aon. So I wanted to stay in the vertical market of medicine in some capacity. With that said, it obviously doesn't have to be that. It could be any property owner that has a spot that that's not being used, that sees the advantage of making some money on the side while letting us use it for a couple months.
But basically, you're saying you want it for free.
Yeah.
You're a for-profit company wanting a place for free to come in and compete with businesses that are already established in our area. That's exactly what you're saying.
Well,
Which
because no
to
one
me
else
is not fair to anybody who already has a business here.
no other business is offering this testing.
You just said Pharmacare was.
Pharmacare is offering it for, it's $100 a test. Ours is free, or whatever the proprietor
It's not
wants.
free. You're still billing the insurance company.
Okay, you're right. It's covered 100% by the insurance company. That's true. But Pharmacare's $100 is on top of the billing of insurance.
Yes, we are a for-profit business, but at the end
Then
of
pay
the
rent is what I'm saying. I mean, there's lots of places out there you could pay rent at and do it. Go. There's a place
we're
on
not
Broadway
opposed
that's
to-
available right
That's
now.
why we're on this conversation, so that we can have an open conversation. We're not against that. We're just,
But we've told you there's places available, but it just basically sounds like you want somebody just to let you come in and use their space. And if they make a little bit of money on the side off of it, great for them. But it's just, I mean, there's a place you could rent on Broadway for probably $500 a month.
Well, that's a year lease. They probably wouldn't let us go anything lower than a year lease.
Have you asked them? You haven't even asked them, obviously.
Well,
that's the problem.
People I have asked have gone and said nothing lower than a year.
but at the end of the day, if you guys don't want to do it, it's okay. We just thought it would be a nice thing to do for Frostburg, and it's totally up to you guys. I mean, we're not pushing you either way. I mean, it's neither here nor there. So like I said, if it's not something that you guys want to do, it's okay. We're sorry we took up your time. But I mean, obviously Todd lives up there, so he's concerned with that area. It's not like we're picking Frostburg to fight with Pharmacare. So just for the record, that's not what we do.
And all I thought was, oh wow, wouldn't it be nice to be able to replicate a situation that we had at Beckman's? That's all my thinking.
It wasn't done intentionally to hurt or make you guys upset at all. So if that's how you feel, then it's okay. We can move on.
I think that I see it more as a service to our area residents, because I don't think very many of them can pay $100 for a test. And I think that the convenience and the fairly quick turnaround, it's a service to our residents. I don't think that this is competing with any other kind of business on Main Street. That's not a retail establishment. And we are still in a pandemic. I would really like to have something that is free or very low cost. I'm pretty much on the side that Todd is on, in which this isn't like your regular kind of retail business.
And let me interject, the Pharmacare testing site isn't even in Frostburg. It's out on Bedford Road.
Cumberland.
We're talking about a short window too.
Right. Which is important.
Kevin, you have anything? Or Adam?
I mean, there's two good points there, definitely, with Nina and Donny. But I mean, I don't know that we can throw it in City Place. So I mean, you know, if they could find another location, that, you know, that would be fine. But I don't know that, you know, I don't think we can do it in City Place, you know. I don't know.
Well, I've already accepted that. That's already
Right.
accepted.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not, you know, I'm not against them getting a, you know, another spot in Frostburg, you know.
Yeah.
But
I think it might be best for us to look at it. I don't want, like I said, I don't want to upset anyone in the situation. So I think you guys are right, Todd. We just need to find another spot. And listen, I think if we can go to a short-term lease with someone, then maybe what we could do is have it open more days a week for the community. And that would help the community more too, as well. So, and obviously you guys are, you know, interested in helping the community. And if that's a way that we could work together, that would be great. So, but I think we need to look at some other avenues.
My other concern is, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go. I was just, if you went to a place, for instance, the KFC's got an opening place on Main Street. Maybe you could go to them. I don't know what they would want, but let's say you would go to him and they'd say, well, we want to charge $50 per person for you to use our building. Would that be something acceptable to you?
Ooh,
I don't know. I
That
think
seems,
I don't want to put words in someone else's mouth of what to say. So I feel like at this stage, I just need to see if somebody wants to do like a lease. I think that's the easiest way. And then the patient doesn't get affected. That's probably the best way to do it.
Yeah.
I think considering that we sent a letter to the governor asking for a state testing site that would have been free for our residents and were turned down, we really would be remiss if we didn't pursue something that would offer the same thing to our residents. I mean, the state obviously didn't think we were worth it, but I think we're worth it.
Oh, you're so sweet.
too. I
Yeah.
live here.
I would really, I mean, I did send that list again with vacant spaces on Main
Can
Street.
you send that again, Elizabeth?
I can, because I mean, I don't know that they're all available for rent right now, but they are vacant and turnkey to the best of my knowledge. And, you know, you would think that at least a handful of those property owners that do have vacant space would rather collect rent for the next 4 months than collect nothing for the next 4 months. So, yeah, I definitely would encourage you to reach out to them and, you know, talk about a short-term lease arrangement with them. And then I think both of our goals would be accomplished.
Yep, I think so too. I think that's the way we need to go, Todd.
All right, I agree.
I'll send that email as soon as this meeting is over.
Okay,
Thank you, Elizabeth.
awesome.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
All right,
Thank
thanks for
you.
joining us today, okay?
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
nice meeting you all.
Yeah.
Take care, guys.
Yeah, thanks so much for agreeing to meet with us.
Yes,
Take
you
care.
too. Take care of yourself.
Too.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Nina, I believe
Solar power.
you're back up with solar power.
Okay. Yes.
And I know, I did talk to Michael since you and I last emailed, so I never followed up with you, so I think we'll probably sound like we have a bit of a disconnect here, and I apologize for that. But
That's
you
okay.
can-
There has been a lot going on.
Yes. So if you want to go ahead and start, and then I'll pick it up, I guess.
Okay, so at the last meeting, you guys asked me to get some references for the places that have had the solar PPAs, as well as clients of Keystone Power Holdings, which I did. I talked to Jeff Barkley because the county has, I think, 2 solar fields actually. And he kind of gave a mixed review, a lot of which had to do with when they put theirs in, which was in 2015, as well as the company they went with, a company called Urban Grid. So in 2015, unfortunately, a very large company dumped a lot of solar credits on the market, which really depressed the price of the solar credits. And as a result, Urban Grid almost backed out of the contract because they didn't see how they could make money off of it. However, Jeff said that he was kind of pushed to pursue it, which he did. And I think they signed an agreement in which their starting price was a little bit higher than the traditional power price, with an escalator. No, check me on that. I'm confusing them with somebody else who wasn't even part of this whole thing. So that's a different thing. Let's see. Okay, I remember now. The problem that Jeff Barkley mentioned was that they seemed to be billed by Potomac Edison for power that Potomac Edison wasn't delivering. It was actually power that was being produced by the solar field. And Urban Grid, so they mentioned that to Urban Grid, and Urban Grid just was not very responsive, wasn't very quick about solving that problem, reaching out to Potomac Edison and saying, hey, you shouldn't be charging for that. So other than that, the only other thing Jeff mentioned was making sure that if the site, just making sure that it was well maintained, that, that the grass wasn't growing up and looking unsightly and that sort of thing. Also, Cumberland Sewage Authority is looking into getting like a dedicated solar field for just the sewage treatment facility. Then, because of what Jeff said about the being double billed, I was really wondering, and then Urban Grid not being as responsive, I was very interested in hearing what clients of Keystone had to say about, how they felt about that particular company. So I asked Bill Revell to provide me with references for about 3 clients who have had a solar array approximately the size that we're looking at for about a year, just to see, how things were going for them. I think he misunderstood why I was asking this. So the 3 letters of recommendation that were provided were they all referenced dealing with Keystone as they were going through the process of designing and installing the solar field, and and so they were all very pleased with the way Keystone handled it and doing like all the paperwork and the permits. They felt like they really didn't have to jump through a lot of hoops or anything like that. So I asked Bill if I could actually talk directly with one of them that seemed to be like kind of similar to ours, to see what it was like a year after they had, had this experience, which I did. It was a sewage authority in New Jersey. And the guy there said that they were very pleased with the way it's been working so far. They have not had any billing issues. The only thing I said, is there anything that surprised you, things that we should know ahead, things you wished you'd known ahead of time? After thinking for a little while, he said, well, our array is kind of it's surrounded by other places, residential areas where people can see it. And he said get buy-in ahead of time if anybody's going to, be near it. Make sure you talk to the neighbors, and make sure that the maintenance is well done. But he said that Keystone was very responsive, and did extra plantings, so that the array would not be visible to the neighbors. And since then, they've been pretty pleased with it. It's done everything that they've wanted it to do. So that's the report. So I guess the next thing is, what are the next steps? Should we do an RFP? I'm a little doubtful that we will get many proposals, or maybe not any, because of the size. It's just a 750 kilowatt array. And not very many companies specialize in such a small PPA. This particular company, Keystone, that's their specialty, small to mid-size arrays. It's sort of a niche. I don't know how many are out there who do that sort of thing.
So, some of the one concern and question I had was in regard to the need to do a request for proposals on this. And Nina shared with me federal guidelines on how to pursue your PPA. And one of the first things it says is if you're a smaller organization with a smaller power load, you probably will not get more than one proposal. And we've kind of experienced that casually in talking to some of these larger providers. But that leads to one question that I guess I have for you, Commissioner, is there opportunity with a PPA I mean, I know the university's been pursuing potentially some options, and then maybe the county would be looking to offset more of their electricity consumption, and or Cumberland. Is there a way for us to all join together and collectively pursue a PPA together that maybe is more attractive and there would be more competition? Or is it at least worth a conversation with these other entities to see if it'd be something they'd worth pursuing? But I guess prior to that is, I mean, this is a 20 or 30 year commitment, and I mean, are the five of you in agreement to at least explore this? Or that's kind of, I guess, the first question. Or the majority of you in agreement to at least explore this? In theory, it should save money.
Right.
Anyone? Going once? Going twice?
Well, I'm obviously in favor of it. I think that one of the things I'm very attracted to with the Keystone one is that there is a buyout option at 10 years and then 15 years and then, every 5 years, which we would need to see, what that might look like. Maintenance on these things is actually, it's not bad. It doesn't require a whole lot. I think our experience with it for the first 10 years would sort of serve as a guideline as to whether it would be something that we would think would be desirable. The upside to that is that we could then realize all of the savings from the solar array. That would be the SRECs, that we would get. So we would actually be getting money in addition to what we would be saving. The downside would be that we would be on the hook if, we needed to replace a panel or the inverter. And we would also have to perform the maintenance on the grounds. As far as the larger array goes, I guess the first thing would be whether there would be a site, which, you know, if we're talking countywide, there probably are some pretty good sites. And if it's a brownfield, there are, I think, are also some federal or actually even state grants for use of, you know, a brownfield for something like this. I know that the state has really been moving fairly aggressively this year towards alternative energy things. So, you know, it seems like now is a good time to explore that sort of thing. I don't know if we want to lock ourselves in to Keystone or kind of see what the state has available for, you know, small municipalities.
Mhm. Right. What do we want to do, folks?
I don't know, it's a pretty big commitment.
So the Keystone proposal, let me just remind you, it starts at a rate that is a little bit lower than our current rate, but it has a built-in escalator. And so, you know, it goes by historic rates of increase in traditional energy prices. And the bet that we're making is that historic increase continues. If there's a sudden, you know, or if there's a significant downturn, then we wouldn't be saving any or much money. So that's the gamble. If it, you know, if things do go up significantly, then we'd be saving a lot of money. Let's see, the escalator is 2%. And the historical utility rate increase average is greater than 4%. So
They're still playing odds.
but yeah, we are. And
Yeah.
I tried to do some research as far as like the federal, the Energy Administration, what if they had long-term estimates of energy prices, and I could not find anything useful, and maybe I'm not looking at the right places. And, you know, maybe I should still, you know, try to, because I think you want it from an unbiased source. You don't want it from somebody who is, you know, associated with any particular energy provider.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's why I was looking at the Federal Energy Administration, and I don't know, maybe they're just really leery of making really long-term estimates. You know, it's a volatile market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's like, say, if you, you know, I'm not picking on Keystone, but probably the last source of information like that you'd want to follow would be the brochure put out by the company you're looking at. You know,
Right.
you want to be able to validate, you know, like say whatever history has taught us so far, and if there's any projection going forward. I guess this is as good a time it is to look at some issues of green energy. It's also probably a bad time because we don't know when things will come back to normal. And, you know, that's going to have cost factors going forward. So, what do we normally do? It's 3-year contracts on energy.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And we just entered our new one.
Right.
Yeah, so on the other hand, it is with Constellation, and Keystone says that they deal a lot with Constellation. So and have, you know, always worked something out, but who knows? I mean, we might incur a penalty if we end up, you know, getting 90% of our energy from solar, you know, during the course of this contract that we're on.
Yeah. we're locked in and bought in. You know, that's the other side of that.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Do you think
Yes.
there's more opportunity for savings if we do see what the state's going to do? I mean, you know, to possibly go that route.
Okay, I can do that. I can contact MSEC and MDE, and because a lot of the new stuff has come out now this year. So I can see if there are things for municipalities. See, it's different for us since, you know, we're not eligible for the tax credits, you know, as a municipality.
Mhm.
So it would really depend on, you know, grant funding from the state. If it's something that's not a PPA for, you know, from a solar company like this.
Yeah, MSEC has very limited pots of funds this year. So the problem with grant funding is that it's likely only going to cover a portion of the total cost. And the advantage of the PPA is you get to spread that cost out over the period of the contract.
Mhm.
But I mean, the Mayor and Council in 2012 took on debt to do the inline turbine. I mean, there was grants with that, but that is generating 15 to 20% of the city's total electric consumption. And in theory, we're paying that back each year. So, you know, the savings we're doing is allowing us to make those debt payments. So it's, you know, there's that evaluation of, you know, what's in the city's best interest there. And then I guess it's kind of a gray area in terms of our procurement policy, whether or not we'd have to do a request for proposals or not, especially given the circumstances. So I guess looking for direction, do you want me to reach out to other jurisdictions to see if there might be a collective interest that might be more favorable to the city? Do you want the commissioner to look into grant opportunities, but knowing that would be a capital purchase likely? Do you want us to?
Yeah, that is the thing. Just piggybacking on what you just said is that if we do it ourselves, then it would be a capital purchase, whereas with a PPA, they do everything. All we would do is be paying this 0.064% dollar, 6.4 cents per kilowatt hour, I think it is.
So the like all the sites right now, or nothing's inside of Frostburg. That's correct, right? I'm correct in saying that.
Yes, it would be the two sites that were identified, which, you know, we're not tied to because we haven't talked with the owners, are two hayfields right on the edge of Glendenning.
Yeah. Don't they park there for Cougar football? They park in that field, I believe.
Beyond Cougar Field? There's
Yeah.
a big parking lot by Cougar.
Okay.
Yeah, they park up above the field, like
Oh, they
Yeah.
do?
be north of the field. Yeah.
Yeah, they park in that field up there.
I had no idea.
Okay.
I think looking, you getting with some other municipalities, Elizabeth, would probably be a good idea.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I think, you know, the city's efforts in sustainability, it'd be, you know, the novelty that the city did this, but, you know, if we could get a bunch of folks in Allegheny County together to do something, that might be a really advantageous to all of us in terms of just economies of scale. So, okay. I'll certainly reach out. I'll reach out to all the municipalities and follow up with what Alva's doing at the university as well again, and we'll go from there.
Okay,
Okay, thank you. All
Thanks.
All right.
Mhm.
Thank you.
thank you.
right, Commissioner Donny.
Okay. In the Frostburg first meeting the other day, we were discussing a lot of the vacancies on Main Street, and the fact that a lot of them aren't even attempting to rehab the buildings, or if they are rehabbed, rent them out. I mean, they're just sitting there vacant. So the talk was, is there any way we could, I guess, give people a little push to an incentive to get their places rented out? And one of the talks was maybe a vacancy tax. And I think Elizabeth went to Michael and talked about it, and it's probably not, tax might not be the way to go, but I think Michael came back with a proposal of sounded like if a place is vacant for X amount of time, that it would need to be registered and inspected. So making people register them, and I guess it would be a penalty of some sort for having these. I mean, just walking down Main Street, I mean, you see in one block of Main Street, there's a land or an owner that over the past 5, 6, 7 years has bought 3 or 4 buildings, and they're all just sitting there doing absolutely nothing, and he doesn't seem to have any interest in doing anything with them. And I mean, I'd love to have that kind of money where I could just sit on a building and not have to worry about it, but it doesn't help the downtown at all. Especially,
Donnie, is it because they're making their money from like apartments up above rather than the storefronts?
maybe in some of them, but mostly no.
That just makes no sense to me.
No, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, if they did have apartments above, it would be one thing, and that, or if
It still doesn't help.
No, it doesn't help. But even if they were like trying to lease them out is my biggest thing. I mean, we just had this discussion 10 minutes ago with the people from the lab, and there are people that want to open businesses in town, and there's nothing there. I mean, there's a building that we looked at when we opened up our real estate business in 2011 that still sits vacant today. There is absolutely no excuse for that at all. It's ready to go. It's available. That somebody could move right into it. But
I've known people who with businesses who contacted some of these people who own these storefronts and just never got any response at all.
No, they won't. No, I mean, I'm dumbfounded by it. I mean, I don't understand. So I think there's got to be something we can do to light a fire under some of these landlords, and just get them to make some activity. No, I mean, I get it. Like, next door, Crestmont just went out of business not too long ago. Yeah, he's got the building for sale. Yeah, I get that. At least he's doing something to try to make it move. But there's too many empty spaces that should be getting used right now. It's
let me throw something out. What if we sent a letter of concern to each of the property owners and attempted just to get some feedback from them, find out, and how can we assist you in running this space? Whether it be, with LJ here at City Hall, someone comes in and says, I'm looking for a place to, put in whatever, sell widgets. But at least let them be aware of the fact that, we're concerned. And
it's probably a good starting point.
Yeah. Donnie, you hear, I hear, and I went to FBPA 2 weeks ago, and I was reminded that there's 18 empty storefronts on Main Street, and we should be doing something to rent those. So, you know, maybe Liz and I can draft something if you all are in agreement, and get something out to everybody and let them know that they're being talked about.
Yeah. Yeah, and just let them know these are some of the thoughts we're considering. I mean, it's, again, I mean, it's one thing if your business just closed and, you know, you're 6 months trying to get it leased out or something. It's another thing when you've owned a building for 15 years and haven't even made an attempt to do anything to it, you know?
Yeah.
It's.
Well, and maybe they could update the contacts, and then I'd be so bold as to say, what are you looking for a month? Are you requiring a year lease? Are you, you know, give us some detail, and we could keep an active list here at City Hall.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and are you available to show the property, or who do we have to contact if someone wants to see it?
Yeah.
That's a good idea to,
Yeah.
yeah, make it that detailed. It's not just like a general letter of what can we do to help. I like that idea.
Well, I mean, we all get approached by people, right? So we all could have that list in our back pocket.
Mhm. And that would also then let the owner know that we're interested in their specific plan, you know, because to us, it seems like some of them are just don't have any plan. They have not interested in renting out. So that kind of lets them know we want to know what your plan is. And in our back pocket, maybe we just shouldn't let them know right now, but in our back pocket, we should have this idea of what Donny raised about, you know, some sort of registry and something that will actually act as a penalty for just squatting.
And I think the Michael's proposal would even extend to residential units too, out and about. And that's probably another good thing to have. I mean, we don't want to end up like some of these other municipalities and before we know it, have hundreds of vacant properties out and about.
Yeah.
That are just getting overgrown. And I mean, our staff does a phenomenal job on the rental housing side of it, but there's other properties out there that, you know, are in the same situation that we really need to worry about.
And one property, residential, comes to mind. It's out of sight, out of mind, but insignificant disrepair and code enforcement. And every year, it's a property owner in Allegheny County. Every year, we write them citations, and every year they take care of what we wrote them a citation for and pay us the citation fines, and will not have a conversation with us further about what can we do. I mean, it's real people are interested in that real estate if they would just tear it down and sell it, or sell it as is, or just donate it to the city. It's costing them money and they're not making any money. So it is bizarre, the logic sometimes.
Could I just add a few points to this conversation, please?
Do it, LJ.
Yes.
Specifically in response to that issue you just brought up, Elizabeth, I just wanted to update you that we have extended an olive branch to that property owner. And occasionally I have other property owners looking to invest. And some of them are the type of property owners that like a challenge. And that property certainly is a challenge. But I've actually gotten permission from that property owner to give out his phone number when someone is interested. And Elaine and I have discussed sitting down and working out the issues with surcharges in the utility bill on that property, and then presenting that to you and see where we can go for there, just on that one issue. But then, Donny, I also wanted to let you know that earlier in the year, as part of a Frostburg First community development collaboration, I started sitting on the pop-up shop committee for Frostburg First. And there's grant money and everything in place to institute this pop-up shop program specifically to try to fill empty merchant spaces on Main Street. And again, I'll use the term olive branch. We immediately reached out to vacant property owners and said, you know, we're putting together this program. We notice your property is vacant. Would you be interested in renting it for a short term for a significantly lower rate? Because the idea is we're trying to get people in these spaces and set them up for success in such a way that the rent isn't killing them when they're trying to start up.
Right.
So we had some conversations like that, and then the pandemic hit and shut us down. Our most recent meeting was to push the program to 2021 because we felt that they're facing even greater challenges in the midst of a pandemic when there's social distancing and mask orders and concentration of patrons in one area kind of regulations. So that was the general decision for that.
Yeah.
But I couldn't agree more, and I'd love to be a part of that letter of concern and perhaps offer any and all resources that we can come up with to vacant property owners to help them turn that around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, LJ. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council and Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Laura?
Thank you, Mayor. So it's been a few years since we have run our Facade grant program, but we did have one this year, and it was run a little bit late in the year due to COVID and a lot of the businesses being closed down in the spring. So it was advertised in August and then through part of September. And we had a lot of interest, but as I had mentioned earlier, some businesses had indicated that this wasn't the time for them to proceed. So at this time, we have about half of the money awarded, and we'll have to discuss maybe doing a second round with some of the funding, or working with some of the people who weren't able to get estimates in time. There's a lot of issues with contractors in the area not being able to get to the work quickly right now. There's a lot of wait times to get an estimate or to get to the work completed. So at any rate, I have a list here to present to you. We did receive 7 applications. Unfortunately, 2 of them were not eligible. Either they were outside of the sustainable community area or just didn't meet the eligibility requirements. So 5 were eligible. We had a committee that went through all the projects and recommended that because there was enough money to go around, that we might want to go ahead and fund all of the projects at what they requested. And this table gives you the list of the businesses, just a general description of their proposed improvements and the proposed award. The reason some of them are a bit higher, like for instance, the Elks Lodge, was that this grant was just a little bit different how it was written than past facade grants, where we really wanted to address accessibility on Main Street. It's a big issue. Most of the businesses have a lot of challenges with getting ADA access. So we decided that it would be a good idea to fund any projects that had an element of ADA access, that portion of it would receive a 75% funding level and only have to do a 25% match instead of a 50-50. So they're getting a higher, a little bit different match there. But that's the one project, have the access ramp and an entrance, big changes at the Elks. General Art Store wants to redo their facade and some major improvements to the front of the building. The Frostburg Museum at their new location, they have new lettering that's going to be really nice to say Frostburg Museum so that everyone knows where it is now when they come up Main Street. Spectrum is redoing with the new owner their facade and painting and a lot of improvements. Hers is really reasonable because she's doing some of the painting and things herself. And then Madison Page is redoing some signage at her new location. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer anything specific about the projects, but we're asking for your approval to go ahead to give everyone notice to proceed on these projects.
And we usually, yeah, this is usually just done a consensus at work session, just to make you aware of how the grant dollars are being spent and address any concerns that you have.
I'm fine.
Okay.
Fine with it.
Yeah, I'm good.
All righty. Thank you all. Liz,
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you if this is more complicated than I realized. So if it's okay with Commissioner Grove, I'd like to just do some more research and understanding and potentially bring it back to you at the November meeting.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay,
Very
thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
This next one, LGIT is our local government insurance trust. It serves many municipalities and counties in the state of Maryland. And this is who our vehicle insurance is through and liability insurance is through. And they offer a lot of programs at no cost as just part of our overall premium package. An example being some cybersecurity protection and things like that, in case we were to be hit in those regards. But recently, this Amwins company really strengthened their partnership with LGIT. And what they do is they provide kind of like a concierge service to our retired employees that are 65 and above and on Medicare, to help them choose the Medicare supplemental health insurance that would be in their best interest, balancing their health needs and cost. And unlike going to a insurance broker that is going to sell you their specific product, which from my understanding, like these products or packages are approved by the federal government. So they're like standard prices across the board, just a different company would offer them. But LGIT has some special programming that is offered. So they'll look at any plan that's nationally available, but then LGIT and this Amwins company has special LGIT packages of supplemental health insurance that are retirees. If that package was in their best interest, they could then enroll in it. So it's no cost to the city. And the way that Amwins makes their money is by selling that insurance package. So it's no cost to the retiree as well. And it is a pretty low administrative burden on the city. We just need to provide the Amwins company with an updated census of our employees and that soon to hit our retirees. We need to provide them with an updated census of those folks that are between 62 and 65 on an annual basis, so that they can make sure that they're reaching out to them. And then any materials that they send to our retirees in that age bracket would be reviewed by us and co-branded with city material, so that our retirees know that it's official communication that they're receiving. It's a benefit to our retirees because it's providing a service that helps them navigate the Medicare system. And it's a benefit to us because it's an added benefit and it doesn't cost us anything. But before we went ahead with implementation, I wanted to get your consensus that you were okay with us moving forward with this.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
You said Amwins makes its money by selling the packages. Does that mean then that it has a vested interest in pushing certain packages?
I asked that question of how they made their money. And so I talked, when I had my call with the VP and like the staff that I'd be working with of the company, the VP has access to what the different commissions are on the different companies' packages. And he said some are 10, 15% and some are 0%. And his agents that our employees and retirees would be talking to are paid on salary and have no idea and are not privy to what those commissions are. So his employees are dedicated to making sure that our retirees get the best package for them, regardless of what insurance they are sold. And the fact that it's offered through LGIT gives the city the assurance that LGIT has fully vetted this company and that this really would be a benefit.
That is a good point. That legit, yeah, legit's a good source.
They did the legwork.
Yeah, I actually reached out to the company because of an legit email. So I wasn't prepared for all the sales pitches I was going to get in this position. I did, this email came across my desk a couple weeks ago, and I actually did reach out to AmWinds and ask them for more information. So.
Everybody okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yep. Armstrong Avenue.
Okay, that came up, I guess, at your August council meeting. Residents had requested some safety improvements up there to accommodate pedestrians. One of which was lowering the speed limit, which has been done, and the other request was a four-way stop. And that has been added today at Delano. Chris worked with the street department and Commissioner Ritchie and Commissioner Grove to make that decision of its appropriateness. And then Chris also worked with State Highway to coordinate one of the electronic messaging boards, the big orange signs. So now that sign up on Armstrong should be reading new traffic pattern ahead. One of the residents up there was gracious enough to let us put that in his yard. And State Highway was gracious enough to lend it to us. And then those stop signs did get installed today. I saw another resident of that neighborhood in my downtown travels last week. And he suggested that when that area was annexed, that the Potomac Edison came through with a project to add what they refer to as Cobra headlighting, or the light fixture that is attached to their telephone poles. So the way that works is Potomac Edison owns the light fixture and everything, but the city pays the bill for these Cobra heads all around town. And apparently when it was annexed, there was cherry picking, I guess, in terms of who wanted a light and got a light versus who didn't want a light and didn't get a light. So it's left for some very dark stretches of Armstrong, and therefore this resident suggested that we look at the lighting and improve the lighting. So police department and Chris have been working on that. Police department did travels at nights and identified the dark spots. And Chris has initiated a work order. So anticipate lighting that neighborhood similar to many other areas in town. And they have shields and deflectors to keep those lights on the street and not in the residents' windows. We've upgraded all the main street lights to LED and have been able to accommodate residents with those deflectors and angling those bulbs. So I would expect we'd be able to accomplish the same, but also increase the safety up there. So any
Elizabeth,
questions? Yeah.
Yeah. Did you say that they will also be looking at other dark spots in town, not just Armstrong?
We're starting out with Armstrong, Shaw, and the cross streets between the two. Longer term, Chris has initiated Potomac Edison will retrofit those Cobra headlights to LED with our request. So Chris has made that request. And if, he can certainly work with Potomac Edison engineers. And it's, from what we understand, it's the same folks that did the charging station to identify other dark spots in town where there's, high pedestrian traffic or just other concerns. So.
Just to put in the hopper, I did hear from a resident a few years ago that she doesn't let her kids walk down to the East End Park. I think it's on Cemetery Road. I think that's the road, because of the dark spots there that, she didn't think the lighting was good enough. So that might be one to examine, as we do this.
Okay. We'll light up Kevin's neighborhood.
Yep.
Yes.
Kevin, get out to the flashlight tonight.
Do I got to get my BB gun out again?
Oh, no. Paintball.
That'll cost you, Kevin. Okay. So that was long.
Yeah.
But,
Thanks, Liz.
Now the
kind of-
general discussion begins.
Yeah, like the last couple of meetings, there seems to be little odds and ends that you all have wanted to bring up. So I just added this general discussion to the agenda. If there's anything outstanding that didn't get captured here that you wanted to mention, and I'll be sure to include this on future agendas as well.
Thanks, but today I think I'm too tired to think of anything else.
Anybody have anything?
Yeah, the only thing I have is I think we ought to have longer agenda
Meetings.
If that's the case, I think we need a 30-minute break in between.
Yeah, right.
Mayor and Commissioner Carter, how long were work sessions when you first started?
Oh, work sessions. Yeah, multiple.
Started
One was 6
7
hours long.
I've seen us leave here at 1 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah. Then we went to having 2 because they were so long.
Yeah. You're
All right, I
okay,
gotta
Liz.
go
We
to the
just pick
soccer
on you
game.
because we can.
All right.
We
I'll see you
did cover
guys.
a lot of ground.
Yep. All right. Everybody have a good evening. Take care.
All right, thank you.
You too.
All right. Good night.
Good night.